I strongly believe Albert's research must stop.
Light! We can't build the future on your empty optimism.
Say what you will. I cannot agree to this. Please listen.
No, you listen to this! At every turn, you've ignorantly blocked my research!
Mr. Wily, control yourself. I see the committee is in agreement. And so, the department chooses Thomas Light's research into robots with independent thought. Thank you, everyone.
Why? Why are you fools so blind? One day, Light. One day the world will know I was right all along. Bad memories make the worst dreams. A genius of my caliber needs sleep to keep his brain in gear. Wait. That research from my youth. Yes, now I'll show you, Light!
Thank you for playing the demo. Oh yeah, that's what happens if you manage to play the demo version of Mega Man 11. So, hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Mega Man here from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. And yes, we are back for some more of the forms of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our brand new Let's Play for our YouTube channel. And we are about to be returning back to the forms of Mega Man Swing of Things in the forms of Mega Man 11. Yes, the newest game in the series of the forms of the classic Mega Man industry. And yeah, this game came out recently, in about 2 months ago now, by the forms of the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. I'm pretty sure the PC version about it as well, but that I digress. So this game did first came out in the forms of in 2019, and geez, it's been 8 years since the last Mega Man game of Mega Man 10 in the forms of in 2010. So yes, it's been 8 years since then. So yeah, it's a entirely new experience of Mega Man for me, and as far as I'm aware, since we actually did done every single Mega Man games, specifically the classic Mega Man games, well, at least if Mega Man and Bass was also count as well, but apart from that though, I'm really looking forward to able to jump into Mega Man 11 at long last. So anyways though, so the only version I'm playing through at the moment, as you can see, is the PlayStation 4 version, just because of the PlayStation 4 controls and stuff. So from here, we got ourselves 4 different difficulties, as you can see right there. There is Newcomer Mode, Casual Play, Normal Mode, and the hardest, toughest difficulty in the entirety of the game, and that's the forms of Superhero Mode. Because yes, just like the difficulty settings in the forms within, you know, Mega Man 2 and Mega Man 10, well, you can able to actually choose one of the difficulties on your entire playthrough. So even then though, for the actual purposes of the forms of the actual Let's Play is concerned, with the actual main focus on Mega Man 11, I'm about to be going for normal mode, just because, well, Newcomer Mode is just for, you know, babies, obviously. So, I think we should probably go for normal mode, just because I'm up for a challenge, and plus, since we've already, completed most of the majority of the classic Mega Man games, so I'm up for it. You can receive the special items since I've played a demo version, which, yes, I'll accept that, and let's get this thing started. But first, cutscenes. The year is 20XX. At the laboratory of Thomas Light, father of modern robot society. Many hard-working robots have arrived for their annual maintenance checkup.
All systems nominal. You're in great shape, Blockman.
All thanks to you, Doc. You built me rock solid. Well, I can hear the construction yard calling. Block out.
Good luck out there. Roll, how many checkups are left?
Let's see. We just finished with Blockman. That leaves Torch Man, Acid Man, Impact Man, Bounce Man, Fuse Man, Tundra Man, and Blast Man. Just 7 to go.
Oh, brother, there's no end to them. Doc, how about giving your favorite assistant a break?
I don't need a break, Otto. You know, for a robot, you sure do complain a lot. Now let's crank it up a gear.
Oh, I ain't a machine. I mean, I am, but still.
Mr. Torchman, please proceed to the... Ah! Earthquake!
What on earth? Oh, Otto, hurry to me!
Splendid to see you again, Light.
Wily!
Doctor, what's going on? Stand back, everyone. I'll handle this.
Mega Man!
This is no time for your heroics. I've simply come to give Dr. Light a message.
Then kindly be quick about it.
Of course. You see, I recalled some old research. The very invention you so coldly crushed when we were students together. Or has your memory failed you?
Our university days. A device. It can't be.
Oh, but it can! Your objections wouldn't stifle me forever. I have perfected my design. And now we'll see who was right all along.
Dr. Light, what's the ruckus?
Perfect timing. The lot of you will make excellent test subjects.
Wow! Who are you calling a test subject?
Quickly! You must all run and hide!
Too late! Speed gear!
My robots!
Over here, Light!
That speed! What have you done?
Dang it! Nobody blocks Block Man!
Let those robots go, Dr. Wily!
I have a better idea! At last the world will bow down to the genius of Dr. Wily!
Doctor, I'll go after Wily.
Wait, Mega Man! Wily's invention is called the Double Gear System. It's designed to push robots far beyond their normal strength and speed. If he really has completed it, I'm afraid you won't stand a chance.
But we can't just let him get away.
Mega Man, I can tell you won't be stopped. Very well. This is the prototype double gear system that Wily developed back at Robot University. If I install this into your circuits, you may be able to stop him. But it's dangerous. Double gear places great strain on robot systems.
I can take it, Doctor. I want to do this no matter the cost. Hook me up.
As you wish. The installation will take some time. There's a lot of work to do. The double gear system is fully installed. Mega Man, rise and shine!
Go get him, Mega Buddy! And remember, your old pal Otto is here to help out.
Mega Man, that dirty Wily won't know what hit him.
Mega Man, you're doing a noble thing. Be careful out there.
Doctor, roll. Otto, I'll be back soon.
Would you like some explanation about the double gear system? Well, I've played the demo version about this during about a few months ago, so I'll pass. And it's going to explain about that again, but as I said, I played a demo version recently, and there's no point for me to practice that. So, here we go folks, onto the forms of Mega Man 11. Now, if you couldn't tell already, this is actually my first jump cut for this point, just because, well, apparently for some stupid reason, is that my HDMI cord, or that cable rather, that's usually plugged into my capture card device, starts all glitched up. So even then though, thankfully though, I've managed to fix that, and hopefully it should be able to be working out for. Yeah, if you managed to able to purchase, or if you actually did manage to play the special demo version of Mega Man 11, what happens is the fact that it actually gives you additional energy tanks. So even then, well, to be honest with you guys, I accidentally managed to overwrite the actual saving at the moment, just because I thought to myself I'm almost going to be skipping the opening sequence, but turns out my HDMI cord has been glitched out all of a sudden, so, but again, it's been fixed, so everything is can be pretty noticeable in some cases. So there we go. Once again, there are 8 Robot Masters to deal with in the forms of in Mega Man 11. So we have Blockman, Acid Man, Blast Man, and especially noticeable with, although first things first, let me just go ahead and double check on any kind of settings. Now, this is one of those games about the fact that I'm also able to configure out the settings, much like in forms of how it does it in whatever I did in the forms of in Mega Man Legacy Collection series, but in forms of in 1 through 10. Well, except by the forms of in Mega Man and Bass, because, well, you know, Mega Man and Bass was originally on the Super Famicom, but we don't have the Super Famicom version, but in the forms of the Game Boy Advance version instead. So, naturally speaking, I have to configure out the forms of the rapid fire into the forms of, like, it's own button, because I was so used to with the forms of the rapid fire button in the forms of the past few Mega Man games in this series at this point. So, naturally, though, I'm pretty much up for it for this particular case. So anyway, Blast Man, Fuse Man, Bounce Man, Torch Man, Impact Man, and Tundra Man. So the first Robot Master I'm going to be tackling through is none other than Blockman himself. So let's get started. Okay, another jump cut right there for this point, because it took me a lot of practice to be able to get used to with how the game mechanics work. So I'm more up for it. So even then though, this is Mega Man 11, the long time waited for the forms of the next true sequel to the forms of Mega Man ever since in Mega Man 10 back in 2010. Except this time around though, the visual style wasn't go back into the forms of the 8-bit style this time around though. No, it was actually a new, you know, the new art style by the forms of the Mega Man this time around. So yeah, there's no need to go back into the forms of the 8-bit settings for the time being. So, naturally, that's, you know, everything's all accounted for. So, the biggest, newest mechanic by the forms of in Mega Man 11 as far as this game is introduced, and that is the forms of the double gear system. There are 2 different modes by the forms of the double gear system. There is a speed gear and a power gear. The speed gear, which actually slows down time, as you can see right there, which not only by the forms of the actual objects, but also enemies themselves as well. And that could be the same applies for bosses as well, but only for certain advantages. So with that being said, yeah, this is an entirely new experience for Mega Man, even though he still uses his, you know, Mega Buster and all that stuff. Now, we remember in the forms of our Let's Plays of Mega Man 9 and 10 that most of these abilities, by the forms of ever since in Mega Man 3 all the way up to Mega Man and Bass, that normally Mega Man does have his charge shots or even his actual slide maneuvering. As you can see, Mega Man 11 finally makes its returning by the forms of the sliding and the charge shots. So yeah, I'm very pleased about that actually, because for the love of God, whenever I played Mega Man 9 and 10, it's so hard to get back into those games because I'm used to with the forms of a charge shot and the sliding maneuvering, which I think as the only moves I really enjoyed the most in the forms of how it does it in Mega Man 3, and especially noticeable, I'm really glad that these 2 abilities makes a return. So yeah, they get the idea with this solution. So as you can tell by the forms of the actual graphical standpoint, it's remarkably different from the forms of the past few Mega Man games, most notably by the forms of the 8-bit style, by the forms of Mega Man 9 and 10. So even then though, that makes it a little bit more of appreciation. So as you can tell by the forms of the actual cutscenes in the forms of in Mega Man 11, much like in the forms of how it does it in Mega Man 8, and especially noticeable in Mega Man Powered Up for the PSP, this game does have voice acting, so expecting that if my first impressions with the forms of the voice acting in mind, it's alright, I suppose, but they're definitely way more top-notch than in forms of that, well, underwhelming English dub in forms of in Mega Man 8, just because, well, he just speaks like almost like a young girl, to be honest. But thankfully though, in Mega Man 11's voice for Mega Man is actually a little bit more, a little bit more versatile than he forms of from, you know, in Mega Man 8. So yeah, there's the first step of the playthrough, if you couldn't tell by this point. So yeah, because as to be expected from any other Mega Man Let's Plays of games and all that stuff, there's gonna be a lot of trial and error moments here. Stuff like, you know, bottomless pits, enemy contact, and boss fights, encounters, and basically you name the rest. So, but even then though, as to be expected, I'm going to be following some of these correct spotting robot masters to deal with by the forms of... I believe most people seem to go after Blockman first, just because, well, the actual main weapons themselves, we'll get some more details onto them as soon as we're able to proceed on things with Mega Man 11. So, yeah, whatever when this game first announced it, back in about last year or something, by the forms of the celebration of the Mega Man's 30th anniversary since 1987, I was really excited about this. Even then, it's been about, again, 8 years since the last Mega Man game by the forms of Mega Man 10 for the Nintendo WiiWare, and Microsoft's Xbox 360, and PlayStation Network's PlayStation 3. So yeah, it's been a long time coming, doesn't it? I don't know if they're actually going to be revealing Mega Man 12 for the time being, but let's just say this right now. I'm pretty sure they need some more time in developing wise for that specific Mega Man 12. So, but even then though, we'll find out whenever the future time comes. So, anyways, most likely in forms of how it does it in any certain Mega Man games at this point, there might be some mini-bosses every once in a while. It's important to know is the fact that, unlike in Mega Man 9 and 10, and the majority of the Mega Man games, since Mega Man 3, 4, 5, 6, or as a brief appearance in Mega Man 6, and actually before we get to this, however, though, here we have ourselves some small new enemies here and there. Stuff like the evil variation, or in this case, a fake Eddie. Which basically, how it does is that it'll just try to steal your item, and then he'll run off every once in a while. But thankfully though, with the forms of the speed gear, that way you can able to temporarily slow them down, and then you can get the item from there. So yeah, out of all the those two gear system, as far as you can see right there, I'll explain the actual gear system on why not. So even then, we got ourselves the speed gear, which I said this before, can temporarily slow down time and all that stuff, means including enemies, environmental hazards, including body forms of the bosses themselves. However though, the second gear, as far as that's been concerned with, it has the forms of the power gear, which basically the power gear can do is that you can able to actually increase your strength. So naturally you can able to actually pull off some stronger, even much more stronger interference when it comes to like trying to deal with enemies and bosses and you name it. So out of all the actual like you know, the double gear system that I've seemed to use a lot of, I think I actually used speed gear the most, just because not only just makes the actual entire gaming experience a lot easier, but it's actually a little bit more fun to use, because it's kind of like how it did in the forms within the Chaos Control ability from Shadow the Hedgehog, well, only on boss fights department. That way you can able to slow down time and stuff like that, and also the red gem from Sonic 06. But except the fact that there is no time limit or anything like that, so... But here's the thing about the forms of the double gear system though. If you manage to use it too much, then as you can tell, the actual gauge will be slowly filled up. This means if it goes all the way up, this means you won't able to use that for about a few seconds, because if it starts overheating, then you might not get to use that as soon as it cools down a bit. So that's how essentially how this goes with the forms of Mega Man 11's mechanic. So yeah, I really do like this change. It makes everything a little bit more easier, even though it might be still very difficult at the same time, especially on normal mode, but that's just how I think it is.
What are you doing here? You're a few bricks short of a load.
Alright, so here we go with the first Robot Master in the forms of Mega Man 11 that we're gonna be tackling through, and that is Blockman. So, and not only by the forms of how the fact that you can able to use your speed gear and the power gear at the same time, well, not all the time mind you, but just most of the time. And not only that, boss fights can able to actually use their double gear system as well, mainly by the forms of the you know, the Rockman, or in this case Stone Man, if you might as well say that right. You actually just managed to use the power gear, so even then, or actually Blockman, sorry. I keep on thinking of the forms of the past Mega Man games when it comes to confusion names. And right off the bat though, I game wrecked so easily, because I have no idea what I'm supposed to do right off the bat. Even though this might be a semi-blind playthrough if you couldn't tell for this point for Mega Man 11, so don't be suggested by the forms of my skills is a little bit too lackluster or anything like that. So Again, I must admit though, I haven't really played that much of Mega Man for a while, ever since in 4 months ago right now. So, I'm also able to actually catch up with the forms of that kinds of stuff, including the upcoming more Mega Man products by the forms of the actual Let's Plays department, but this time on the handheld, on the Game Boy, oh no, the Game Boy, yeah, that's what I was trying to say. So, yeah, as far as it will go. So yeah, as I said this earlier, that not only buddy forms of Mega Man can actually use the double gear system, but also boss fights can able to actually deal with the actual the double gear system as well. Mainly buddy forms of the power gear for Blockman, as you can see, which you have to destroy the red core of its center of the body, which in order to actually deal some damage, but not that great though. So even then, that as you can tell right from the start. Sometimes it really throws me off, especially with the actual pattern right there. Or maybe it's because I wasn't really keeping an eye out with the depth perception or something. Although, again, I may be a little bit more semi-blind with this, other than the fact that I haven't really played any of the Mega Man games at this point since, 4 months ago. So, again, I must admit though right away, I do apologize for my lack of skills or anything like that. So I must admit though, I do apologize. So, yeah, that's as far as I can say about the forms of Mega Man 11, honestly. It's a really, really cool addition to able to actually just, to make Mega Man great again. Even though the reviews on that game is a little bit more, positive and mixed receptions, which is kind of a odd choice for me. Anyways, though. So, yeah, there's not much else I can really tell. Energy Tanks is still present here, just like how it does it since Mega Man 9 and 10. And just like before, you can able to actually restore your health completely. However, though, it depends on what difficulty you're in. I'm pretty sure if you ever play this on normal mode, which is the current difficulty I'm in right now, you can only hold up to 6 energy tanks for some reason. But on lower or even lower difficulties, I'm presuming you actually get yourselves a little bit more energy tanks as far as I've heard. But I haven't really tried those out yet, so even then, this is my first time playing this. And yes, just like before, it actually restores your health completely if you actually use the energy tanks. So the third and final phase with the forms of Blockman, as you can see right there, he starts spending most of his time just jumping sometimes, and he spawns in so many blocks. So even then, once you deal with the last few shots on him, then you should able to actually deal with Blockman in during time. So there you go. So yeah, not only do we able to get ourselves our first trophy, as you can see, but also 2 trophies in one. Technically, I've already got my first trophy in this game so far, but the forms of that. You know this little wheelie contraption robot thingy where you actually did saw in this stage? Well, I've pretty much got that trophy though, so I apologize, I actually did accidentally miss that footage right there, so I must admit I do apologize. So just like before, in the forms of the past few Mega Man games, after when you defeat one of your robot masters, then you claim yourselves your weapons. So here we have the Block Dropper. Except, rather than just actually just showing you by the forms of how these weapons can do, unlike the ones of how it does it in the forms of Mega Man 6, they actually show up the weapon. And especially noticeable with the forms of Mega Man 10, if I remember correctly. But this time around though, you can actually take control of your actual weapons as far as this is concerned with. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. And just like in the forms of how it does in Mega Man 7, and Mega Man 8, Mega Man and Base, Mega Man 9 and 10, once again, there is actually a shopping mechanic, which even then, you can still buy items, stuff like 1-ups, energy tanks, and especially the weapon tanks just makes a return, ever since any forms of how it does in Mega Man 10, and especially noticeable with certain upgrades. And even the mystery tank makes a return. Eddie and Beat are still returned, but they act out pretty differently this time around though, which I'm probably not going to mention about it too much, just because I don't know if I could show off the extra stuff of how this game offers. I just mainly go for the actual main game itself, I have to be honest. But anyways though, so that's it for that. And now let's just move on to the next robot master in the game, and that will have to be Acid Man. So let's get into this. By the way, thumbs up to the forms of that really cool introducing robot master's intro right there. That's pretty cool. So anyways, though, here we go with the forms of Acid Man stage, and if you stay for a little bit longer in the beginning parts, there's another trophy right there. So I'm guessing this means something to do with the actual birds in the background. So, you know, just soaring throughout. So yeah, that's all I can really think about. This stage does remind me of almost exactly similar to the forms of the Chemical Plant Zone from not only by the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, but also by the forms of Sonic Generations and Sonic Mania, and somewhat in Sonic Forces, but even for the forms of almost like a wintry setting or something. So that I digress. So, and it's also kind of feels a bit similar to the forms of how it does in any other water levels from the past few Mega Man games since Mega Man 2, by the forms of, I would say, a Bubble Man stage on, you know, in Mega Man 2, I think. But obviously, if you go into any sort of, you know, sequences such as like this, you think you're actually going to be exploring like somewhat similar if you're exploring underwater segments basically for the past few Mega Man games, except the fact that, well, there isn't no water or anything like that, or maybe it was, but either way though, but except the fact that, well, you don't normally swim unlike in Mega Man 8, but either way though, you have to like walk on foot and you have to watch out for the most of it because, you know, as to be expected, we're now actually introducing to ourselves these spikes once again, just like it likes how it does in the previous Mega Man games. If you get one touch of the forms of the spikes below, or the actual walls themselves, then it's one instant death right there, so you have to watch out for those. So, yeah, that's as far as I can tell. Now, originally this was supposed to be uploaded during the likes of Boxing Day in the forms of yesterday, but I have my problem with the forms of my internet at the moment, so I couldn't even get into the forms of Google Chrome for the time. So this was going to be uploaded during the likes of today was actually forms of the 27th of December in 2018. So we got 5 more days to go until the new year starts. So this could be a lot more interesting to say the least. So especially noticeable with the new set of redo Let's Plays, including some new ones as well, and you name the rest. By the way, these little spider-looking enemies, well, not so much for these normal size, but in the forms of these mini variations, it can be kind of annoying sometimes to deal with. But other than that, though, as soon as you're able to actually just, you know, destroy them with any forms of the Mega Buster itself, then you would be fine. So, oh, another trophy. Okay, that seems a little bit more editable. I think the reason being for that is because I've seemed to got my invincibility frames whenever I almost touch by the forms of the actual spikes themselves. So, usual items are back by the forms of the Mega Man's heads, which once again they will allow you to give you a 1-up, and especially noticeable with the forms of, as I mentioned to you earlier, the energy tanks and the weapon tanks, which allows you to able to fill up your weapon. But not just your one weapon, but every single weapon this time around though, as far as I've heard. And as far as I'm concerned with this kinds of stuff, then yeah, that's as far as I can usually say about it. And also Mystery Tank makes a return, but much like before, it actually reveals not only your health, but also every single weapon energy as well. Just like the ones and how it does it in the forms of not only Mega Man 5, but also Mega Man 9 and 10 as well. So, you probably get the idea at this point. So, yeah, I'm very surprised at how the fact that we're still going back into the forms of the actual, like, just like in the old school days, except they actually add in something new, like the double gear system, as I said this before. But again, that, if you really want to make the entire game a little bit easier for you, well, just be sure to able to not use the speed gear all the time, because if you use it way too much, then obviously you're overheated. So even then, no, that's what normally happens, which I'll show you in a moment whenever we get to the later stages, most notably buddy forms are some of the tougher ones, which either way though, that could be considered this much. So anyways though, let's slide from here until we're able to get not only health, but also the weapon ammo as well. Well, to be more accurately, a refill weapon energy and stuff like that. So yeah, you get the idea with this solution with the forms within Mega Man 11, and I think I have to admit though, I actually very enjoyed this game so far. Even though I haven't really touched upon that game so far, as far as on this point, up until now, just because I need to wait for that happening, wait for that Let's Play to happen until when it gets to the very end of this year. So because that's the reason why we took so long to able to now go ahead and jump into the forms within Mega Man 11 now. So, by the way, as you can see, we actually come across into those little well, let's just say buddy forms of those acid-looking enemies. As you can see, they stand on one platform and they spew out some acid. And basically, if you manage to touch by the acid, then obviously it will hurt you, so watch out for those. And of course, much like the ones of how it does in any other Mega Man games since Mega Man 7, well, bolts, or in this case, screws or bolts, whatever you want to prefer calling those, once again, it allows you to able to buy something with the actual bolts or screws, but it forms of the actual Dr. Light's lab or shop. So that's pretty compliments here. So even then, though, that makes it a little bit more handy for you if you really want to make your journey a lot more easier for you. So even then, though, let's go ahead and just use the speed gear from here. And we'll go for a little bit of a tricky sections right from the start. And, yeah, that's as far as I can usually just trying to say about this here. So, yeah. And of course, there is also the release buddy forms of, Mega Man 11, of course, is the forms of, not only the PlayStation 4 version, because I'm playing this version of Mega Man 11 at the moment on the PlayStation 4, because directional pad with the PlayStation 4 is super damn good. Especially noticeable that it really just fits onto my left thumb, no problem. But when it comes to the Switch version, which I don't own for that, and the Xbox One version, then I just refuse to get the Xbox One version because, well, I just still really found the Xbox One's name is kind of lame, to be honest, even by the forms of like 5 years later prior. So that's why I'm not going to get that console, though, to me, though, anyway. So we got these familiar enemies. They kind of reminds me of the forms of the bumpers for some reason. But anyways, let's go ahead and use my energy tank just in case I don't die. In case of some segments like these bumpers right here. And again, watch out for spikes, because if you get touched by spikes, then it's instant death. So you have to watch out for that. So I just realized about something. Depends on your skill or something like that. The levels themselves are much more longer than the forms of how it does in the previous games. Mainly by the forms of how the fact that, well, since it's a lot more expansive than the forms of how it does it from Mega Man 10, or even especially noticeable in Mega Man 9, but that's just how I think it is.
Come on in, the acid's fine. Time for an experiment.
Alright, here we go with the next Robot Master in Mega Man 11, and that's the forms of Acid Man. And much like any forms of how it does in the previous Mega Man games, some Robot Masters do have its own weakness. Stuff like Acid Man, for example, his weakness is the forms of a block dropper, and his special, double gear that he's actually using is the speed gear. So some Robot Masters seems to able to use the power gear, whilst some of these Robot Masters can able to use the speed gear instead. So naturally, there might be a little bit of some strategy involved here and there. But either way, though, I think Acid Man is actually pretty easy to able to take him down with, especially with the forms of the actual weapon's weakness. So here's the actual weapon for after when you kill Acid Man, and we've got ourselves the Acid Barrier. And basically, it feels kind of similar to the forms of how it does it in one of the best shield weapons in the entire classic Mega Man series, by the forms of the Dual Satellite from Mega Man 9. Except it's actually very useful altogether, even though it doesn't last very long, unlike the ones of how it does in Dual Satellite in the forms of in Mega Man 11. But it's actually a very good barrier of a weapon, though. So even then, let's go ahead and purchase. Even though that the actual 1-up system is still a thing, but much like before, you can only carry up to only 9 of them. So that's as far as memories goes. That's all I can say about it. And of course, I'm going to be saving my game here in case if I lose some of my progressions, as far as I'm usually concerned with. Anyways, though, now we're done with Acid Man, and let's move on to the forms of Impact Man next. Okay, quick go right there, because I need to be able to get a lot of practice with this stage, because this stage is somewhat feels a bit similar to the forms of Gutsman stage from Mega Man 1, because we are once again going to be traversing through a construction site. So, and just like in the forms of how it does in the Gutsman stage from Mega Man 1, well, there's going to be a lot of difficult segments here and there, most notably by the forms of too many bottomless pits, so many construction parts that you need to be able to dodge and just keep your time going and over with. And don't get me started by the forms of those really annoying red homing missile enemies. I despise them so much. And the reason being for that is because we'll get to that certain point when we're able to actually just get to that certain point. That's the reason why I just really hate those homing red missile launchers. Well, it's nothing too much of its own thing. Well, not too much of a problem, I don't think. But, it's just that the enemies themselves can get pretty ramped up. Especially whenever you play this on superhero mode. Well, you're gonna die a lot in superhero modes. And that's why I'm sticking with the forms of normal mode for now. But either way though, because I'm up for the challenge and all that stuff. So, but on the other hand though, because I was, used to with any other Mega Man games by the forms of the actual Let's Plays themselves from the past, then I usually just rematch able to use the save states when every time we, you know, get to that certain point of the actual stage. So, and this is what the main mechanic or the gimmick of the forms of Impact Man stage, and that will have to be dodging for those all kinds of drill missiles, and this is what the actual speed gear comes into play, even though despite the fact that my timing is a little bit off to able to actually slide maneuvering when it comes to able to dodging those little drill parts from here. But either way though, let's just go ahead and keep on moving here. And these little dicker looking enemies, they do remind me of the forms of the Hammer Bros by the forms of the Mario games and all that stuff, and I still really despise Hammer Bros so much, but either way though, that's as far as a completely different story to me. So yeah, as far as I can usually say about the forms of Mega Man 11 as far as I'm concerned, I haven't really mentioned about the music of the game yet. It looks very cool and all together, and because of this though, it almost feels like a somewhat of a remake, almost like an 8-bit, or in this case, I really can't explain about the forms of the actual, like, composer of the actual soundtrack of this game so far, just because, well, I just usually talk about the majority of Mega Man 11 itself. So there might be still 3 parts or 4 parts, depends on what the actual, how length these stages were. Just like the ones and how it does in Mega Man 7 and Mega Man 8, and even Mega Man and Base, because in Mega Man 7 and 8, and especially Mega Man and Base, those games do have their intro stage. Well, not as noticeable in Mega Man 11 this time around, so there's no intro stage. So, or technically by the forms of it, Mega Man Powered Up also has an intro stage as well. So that was technically, there will be 4 games that actually has an intro stages and kind of thing about it. So yeah, that's as far as I can usually say about this here. So anyways, let's go ahead and quickly just be very careful and just take your time, especially noticeable how the fact that, well, unlike the lasers from Quick Man stage, and especially noticeable with the actual flames from what's that? Oh yeah, I think it was actually Turbo Man from Mega Man 7 or something. Basically, if you manage to able to touch one of those dangerous hazards back in those stages, back in the day, it'll instantly kills Mega Man. Well, not as noticeable in Mega Man 11's drill missiles this time around though, so even then though, that makes it a little bit more up for its day. So yeah, you get the idea. So here's the mini-boss with the forms of an Impact Man stage. Now, there is actually a regional differences between the forms of the English version of Mega Man 11 than the forms of the Japanese version of Rockman 11. And that will have to be the actual name differences between only 2 Robot Masters in the game, and that will have to be by the forms of Impact Man, which I'll mention about that in just a moment. And it's also the second Robot Master, which we're about to get into in the next video, and that will have to be Bounce Man. And let's just get into the forms of the Impact Man first, before we're able to actually mention about the forms of Bounce Man's regional differences when it comes to name differences. In the usual English versions of the game, they usually call it Impact Man. But in the Japanese version, they decide to call him Pile Man, because, well, we'll get to that as soon as we're able to actually get our weapon for this particular stage. So, there goes that particular mini-boss, and we're about to be moving on. So, yeah, that's as far as I can say about when it comes to the forms of the actual game itself. Other than that, we can actually mention about some other things worth mentioning, though. The noticeable thing about this is the fact that, one annoying thing about this game, though, I will admit though right away, is the fact that knockback is still a thing, which I'm sure enough it still does in any other Mega Man games at this point. And, as a matter of fact, though, there might be there was actually an ability to able to actually do this kinds of stuff, but I don't know how you get that, though, because, again, it's actually my semi-first time playing this. Well, usually I played this game before on the actual, demo download, but, let me tell you right from the bat, I got a lot of struggles by the forms of the actual demo itself because, well, because I'm used to with the forms of actually playing through the past Mega Man games at this rate, including by the forms of the most recent Mega Man games I've ever played on my PlayStation Portable right about now, is Mega Man Powered Up, which is actually a very, very good remake of the forms of the first game, even though I've only done an intro stage and stuff like that. But I'm taking on the hard difficulty just because, wow, I'm up for a challenge and stuff like that, as to be expected. And luckily it does have save states here and there, just like the ones in Mega Man 11, and especially noticeable with Mega Man 8, Mega Man and Base, and Mega Man 9 and 10. But except the fact that, well, you know, I'm very glad that I've managed to able to actually, like, going back into the Mega Man series to begin with, because as far as you probably guys should already know that I'm a really great fan of Mega Man after all, to be more specifically the classic industries. Well, we'll get into the forms of the Game Boy installments until next year, but not so much by the forms of the Bandai WonderSwan installments, just because it's a Japanese exclusive only, because as far as I'm aware for the actual marketing campaign and stuff like that. So I guess there's another thing that's worth mentioning though, is the fact that recently I've managed to pre-order myself New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch. And, you know, we're looking forward to able to actually just going back into the New Super Mario Bros. Games again. But I think we should probably, let the other toys, do that Let's Play eventually, and during the likes of it next year as well. So that could be a little bit more of a possibility, is that we can finally go back to New Super Mario Bros. Again. Well, ever since the new forms of a New Super Luigi U Let's Play, as far as back in 2016 and stuff. Well, still the quality is very good, don't get me wrong, but in forms of commentary wise, and I think I should probably establish for that specific point right about now. Well, whenever we're done with our Let's Play of New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, we should probably do a redo Let's Play of New Super Mario Bros. 2, so that might be the only New Super Mario Bros. Game needs left by the forms of the actual Let's Plays department, because we just want to make the quality a little bit more of improvement and showing off DLC at the same time. But who knows? And all depends though, really. Alright, so here we go with Impact Man, aka Pile Man, if for those of you who lived in Japan. And his weakness is the forms of Acid Barrier, so yeah, you have to keep on jumping most of the time, because much like Gutsman from Mega Man 1, if he jumps and he just does like a little bit of a ground pound slam ability technique, basically if you didn't jump at the right time, then you're eventually gonna get shaked. So yeah, that might be the only tricky part about this boss fight though. And his gear type is actually a power gear, because you might as well see about the fact that he would eventually try to transform into the forms of the Mega, yeah, as you can see by that transformation, that he transformed into his bigger version of himself. So, but again, you do need to be able to jump at the right time in case if you really don't want to get shaking and stuff like that. So that happened most of the time though, because I have no idea what I'm going to be doing through this point. So, but hey, as long as you can able to actually use the Acid Barrier at the right moment, then you should able to deal the good amount of damage to Impact Man. So, and as soon as you deal with all that, then you would able to deal with that specific Robot Master himself. So there we go. 3 down and only 5 more to go. Now I wish I was gonna be going through by the forms of 4 Robot Masters and another 4 for the next part, but I think I should just say, much like in the forms of in Mega Man and Base Let's Play, I think I should probably do with 3 Robot Masters, and the next part I'll be going for the rest. So here we go, there's the forms of the next weapon in Mega Man 11, and that is the forms of Pile Driver, because yes, in Japan, usually just calls him Pile Man because, well, that's what the actual Pile's name was for. So, what's cool about this is the fact that not only can you able to actually maneuver your dash ability on the ground, you can also use that in midair too, just like the likes of how it does it in Mega Man X games, which is kind of cool if you ask me. And before we end off this Let's Play off, or in this case end this part off, I'm also able to purchase some of these energy tanks and stuff. And by the way, those prices are a little bit more half priced or something like that, which I could assume this might be something to do with the day system. which I'll mention about that is just we're able to actually just to continue with this game suggest. And let's go ahead and save our game quickly. And let's see how much energy tanks that we've got. I'm sure to say that we've got 2 of them. So, yeah, we're gonna have to end things off at this point here, I'm afraid, guys. So join me next time on Let's Play Mega Man 11. Is that we are about to be tackling through the next Robot Master, and that is going to be Bounce Man next. So, yeah, see you guys next time for that. Later, fellas. Man, I really love this menu music.